When opening Affinity Designer for the first time, you're greeted with this welcome screen. On this screen, you can download samples of work that's already complete and final, or you can view tutorials online, even visit user forums to connect with other users and maybe diagnose an error message or something that you might be receiving, or just learn how to do things in the application. A quick note, if you do want this to not show every time you start the app, go ahead and uncheck this panel option on the bottom left. To create a new document, go ahead and click this button here. For the purposes of this video, we're going to just open a sample application file called Destroyer here by Poke Studio. Now, when you see the interface for the first time, it may be a little bit overwhelming, but that's okay. It's fairly easy to navigate, fairly simple once you get used to it. The left side here, you'll see a toolbar. These tools will allow you to draw shapes, modify layers, create what are known as curves, create gradients, add images, crop the actual canvas, add text. You can do either an artistic text or frame-based text, which is like a paragraph. Pick color, zoom in, zoom out, and just move about the interface itself. So a lot there. We'll go into more detail about each tool and specific use cases in future videos, so hang tight there and keep an eye out for those. On the right side, you'll notice all of these panels. I would call them like little windows of tools. These can be configured to show or not based on your preference. If you, for instance, don't want to see the textiles panel, as I just drug it out, if you click drag, you can separate that view there, as you saw. If you don't want this in your view, go ahead and close it. You can also do this from the view menu, going to Studio. If you click to toggle and it does have a check mark by it, it will show. If it doesn't, it won't show. You can reset the studio from this parameter here. You can go left and you will have an assets panel. This is kind of interesting because you can actually create all these panels can move over just like so. If you want different, things at your fingertips. The assets we'll get into. It's a very cool feature, but this is how I typically have it when I work. If I'm doing UI design, for example, or even illustrations, where a lot of things are repeated in the document itself. So we'll get into that deeper in a new video coming. On top of these settings, you'll notice if you do change a tool, these parameters change on this contextual bar, and that is relative to the tool. Say you want the gradient, you can adjust the actual type of gradient if it's on the fill or the stroke. If you want to use the pen tool, go ahead and click it, and you can adjust the fill if there is one, the stroke, the type of mode it is. You can convert. It's pretty endless based on the tool you're using. A lot of shape tools are in this application. That's pretty handy as opposed to something you might find in Adobe Illustrator. Not so many to choose from. Basic shapes, I think, are the only default and have been since the beginning. On top of those settings, something really unique to Affinity products, and the same is true in Affinity Photo, are these persona modes. By default, you'll be in the Drawl mode, or Draw persona, I should say. This is the one you'll probably do most of your work in. If you're doing a lot of UI design and you need to export assets for a developer or someone who's into code, you might use this view quite a bit too. And it's pretty useful in extracting actual UI elements like icons or buttons or images, etc., from, say, a website design, and doing so in such a manner that is very automatic. You can do tons of different file types and even PSDs, which is pretty handy. The other mode is a pixel persona, and I think this is what sold me on this application. It's kind of an all-in-one solution when you think about it. If you can do pixel editing inside a vector program, that's pretty powerful. So in this mode, you can actually do masks. So if you wanted to paint a mask on an actual vector element, you can do so. Same is true for selections, dodging and burning, zoom, of course, zoom, filling, blurring. There's tons of features here. So really unique to the application itself. And I think a lot of people aren't familiar with that. And it's one of the biggest selling things I don't know. It's just one of those things. So this has been an overview of the Affinity Designer interface. We'll go deeper and deeper into what each panel, which each tool does, and how they're used in a real-life project. We'll probably use a kind of task-based approach to that, so we'll actually have a project in mind and utilize all these tools at once to see it in real perspective. So stay tuned for that for future videos. We'll get more in depth as time goes on.